This is World. I am Syed Shabahat Ali and you're watching Fault Lines. Ladies and gentlemen, once again we are going to start the show with the happenings of Gaza. After repeated aerial strikes, the ground invasion unfortunately has begun. To the helpless people of Gaza who do not have enough to eat, now the Israeli tanks have entered the southmost corner of the city, which is called Philadelphia Axis, and also Saladin Axis is its ancient name. This corridor, the Philadelphia corridor, has been monitored, has been manned by the Egyptian side for a very long time, since 2005, when Israel had its last military skirmish with the people of Gaza. This ground invasion has got criticism from around the world. The leaders of the world are calling it a catastrophe. According to the Secretary General of United Nations, it has been declared in his words an epic humanitarian disaster. United States has reminded Israel that it may consider stopping the supply of weapons if Israel continues to follow the same trajectory. To talk about this very pertinent development, my first guest in the show is joining me from the United States, Dr. Karl Kaltenthaler. He is from University of Akron. He's from Department of Political Science, a professor who frequently appears in our show. Dr. Karl, how is the diplomatic situation between the United States and Israel at the moment when all of this is happening?
This is a very difficult time in the U.S.-Israeli relationship. This is an election year in the United States, and there are very significant constraints and pressures on President Joe Biden in terms of how he deals with the situation in Gaza. He's really pushed in two directions. There's the progressive.
The delay in the weapon shipment, as has been announced by the U.S. president, might be a setback for Israel and also for the diplomatic relationship, which can get further strained with this development. What do you think of it?
The delay of weapon shipments to Israel will have a significant political effect in the United States. It will make progressives on the left happy that Biden is taking a tougher stance on Israel. It will make pro-Israel elements within the Democratic Party unhappy with him, and Biden has to count on those people for votes. But Biden's not doing enough in the eyes of more conservative Americans who are very staunchly pro-Israel. And that's a pretty significant chunk of the American electorate. So by delaying the arms shipments, he's really trying to make the progressive wing of his party happy. I think also to a certain degree, Biden himself is unhappy with the behavior of the Israeli leadership in seeming to disregard the casualties to civilians.
But the public pressure is also rising in Europe. Not only it's the United States that is feeling the heat of public sentiment. There is a lot of hue and cry in Europe, and also the international media has started showing the other side of the story, which it has been hiding successfully for quite long. How do you think Israel is going to respond to this?
Not a question at all that Israel will continue with the attack on Rafah, irregardless of what the United States may say, irregardless of what the EU may say, irregardless of what any country or any force in the world says, even though the Israelis really depend significantly on American military aid. This is an issue that is absolutely central to the survival of the Netanyahu government. He knows that if he doesn't push forward with the Rafah attack, that his own coalition will collapse. And that's extremely dangerous for Netanyahu, because if he's not prime minister anymore, he is open to legal jeopardy. So I don't think there's any question that Netanyahu will continue with the Rafah attack, even though it's internationally condemned and it's straining the relationship with Israel's most important ally, the United States.
Thank you very much, Dr. Karl Kaltenthaler, for being guest in our show. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm now joined by Dr. Raashid Wali Janjua, an expert of Middle East, who's joining me on Skype. Doctor, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Doctor, what's the significance of Rafah's crossing falling into the hands of Israelis? We have heard that they have also hoisted their flag today in the crossing of Rafah.
You know, the significance lies in its being the last bastion of resistance of Hamas, and Israel has vowed to stamp out the last vestiges of Hamas. It is basically about the Hamas militants, and its significance is very clear from the point of view of its, being a border region with Egypt as well, because the overall aim was to sanitize the whole Gaza area. And if those strategic objectives are to be believed, if there was a exodus towards Sinai, then the next problem would have arisen for Egypt. And Egypt knew very well that once there was a Palestinian diaspora again in Sinai, the next attempt of Israel would be to go and occupy Sinai, because these are the apprehensions of the Palestinian Authority as well as the Egyptian government. And that is why the Gazans themselves did not want to lose their territory and face another Nakba-like situation. So Rafah is very important from the point of view of being the last stand of the Hamas fighters. And if the Israelis press ahead, then there would be civilian casualties. And they are trying to evacuate some 0.3 million Gazans have been evacuated towards Khan Yunis and Deir al-Bala. But look, there is no refuge for those poor Palestinians. The Deir al-Bala, today there was a BBC report, and it was being quoted on Al Jazeera, that 30 bodies have been found in a mass grave. All in all, 10 mass graves have been found, and still the bombings are going on, even in those areas like Deir al-Bala, which have been declared as the refuge. Let's see how it all pans out, because it's going to be compound to compound, building to building, tunnel to tunnel fight. It's going to be an infantry heavy fight, and especially if the US arms shipments do not reach, and the drones and the precision kits of JDAMs, those are not available in abundance with Israel, then probably the fight would be quite bloody and sanguine for Israelis themselves.
But Dr. Raashid, it's very unclear from the outlook of it. What exactly would Israel want to achieve? Because they're not fighting against a regular or a well-defined or a uniform-wearing army. It's ragtag warriors here and there, and then we are talking about more than 1 million people who are helpless, who haven't had food, who are in the camps since winters. So what do you think would the Israelis be trying to accomplish out of this entire chaos that they have created now?
They are trying to accomplish what they think, in their opinion, a complete victory by bringing the Hamas militants to their knees. And that is why they rejected the truce offer at Cairo, which was accepted by Hamas, and there were a lot of celebrations in Gaza. We saw the visuals, people celebrating that a truce has been agreed upon, but Netanyahu and his cabinet, they rejected it because they had some reservations, because the truce conditions were based upon through a ceasefire, immediate ceasefire, whereas according to the understanding of Israel, this truce is going to be temporary truce, followed by another operations, some exchange of prisoners, and then till the time the entire militant network, it does not surrender and captives are not exchanged, there will be no declaration of victory by Israel. And unfortunately, amongst those captives, a 70-year-old woman died a couple of days ago. Today there was a news of another British national who was held captive. He also died, according to the claims of Hamas. It was because of the bombings of Israel. So that is indeed very unfortunate that the captives on whose exchange this whole truce deal depends, they're also in the crosshair.
Dr. Janjua, also United States has this time adopted a different language. Normally they're quite, they reach this Israel's issue with a very different frame of mind. But this time President Biden has warned Israel that they might stop the provision of weapons. It's not clear what other weapons would Israel require, which has been so heavily equipped just recently by the United States that have dished away such a huge amount of money to Israel. So do you think this to be an eyewash, or do you think the president is under pressure because of the increasing number of protests inside the United States?
Not only in the United States, but all over Europe as well. Yes, he's under pressure, and this is an election year, and he's looking at the electorate and his ratings swaying. There's a very strong pushback from the academic community and the students in Harvard, University of Southern California. We saw those disturbing visuals, and those are indeed exerting pressure. And this was evident in the shape of that State Department report to Congress, in which it was accepted that it was a breach of international law on part of Israel to allow the U.S. munitions to be used against civilians. So this much was conceded, and it was a rap on the knuckle for Israel. And then the declaration of withdrawal of munitions like drones and some precision JDAM kits. Those were withheld. And if the shipment is withheld, then we know that Israel depends for 68% of its all foreign arms funding upon United States. So if that lifeline chokes, Israel might be facing problems. And instead of using those precision munitions, it would have to make recourse to physical infantry assaults, which are quite costly in a fighting and built-up area. And we've seen that in the past also, whenever such situation developed, the fighters with an asymmetric advantage, they always had an advantage vis-a-vis a force which was using conventional tactics. So it's going to be a very costly operation in terms of lives, and there are still a lot of civilians, and the hospital infrastructure has completely collapsed. Out of 36 hospitals, 32 have been destroyed, and there is not a single hospital in full working condition. So the conditions are appalling. There's no food, there's no shelter, there's no water, and there's no doctor, and there's no medicines. And all those crossings, including the eastern Rafah crossing, have been blocked by Israel. And if this operation goes ahead in these conditions, it would be a very costly operation, which might not redound to the advantage of Israel and its leadership as they envisage the operation to go through.
Dr. Janjua, there are different opinions in the intellectual community or in the academic community as well of what Israel might believe to be a bottom line or something accomplishable that they would want to accomplish out of this fight. Do you think they want to evacuate Gaza completely and push the people toward the desert of Sinai? Or do they want to create a larger humanitarian crisis after which they would just come back and would allow the people to live in these rubbles? What exactly do you think is in the mind of Netanyahu as he's continuing this invasion for so many months now?
You see, there are detractors and observers inside the Israeli government who have been pointing the finger at Netanyahu for having supported Hamas for so long to divide the Palestinians. Hamas, according to them, have been getting generous funding from covert sources supported by Israel in order to divide Palestinians. So this is the doing of Netanyahu himself, and the accusing finger points at him, and his electoral prospects have further diminished. He's paid a very heavy cost, and then there's a pressure of the people who want the captives alive. What did he want initially? I believe he wanted a complete control over Gaza, and he would have desired the Gazans to have left and crossed over the border to Sinai. That would have been of advantage to him, as a new enclave of Palestinians would have been formed in Sinai, and that enclave would be another hotbed of problems. And Israel could have used that excuse that terrorism is emanating out of that pocket, and would have gone for gobbling up another chunk of Egyptian territory sometime in the future, in line with its greater Israel concept. So that was the whole plan, which has not come to fruition because of the determination and self-immolating spirit shown by the Palestinians at a very heavy cost. And having failed in that, I think his end objective would be to exercise a stronger control upon Gaza, and keep it more integrated politically within the Israel, and deny Palestinians their rights, which of course is a gross violation of international law. Israel already is in breach of international law, and there are fingers pointing in United Nations. 143 countries supported a resolution in UN General Assembly, which voted for granting the right of full membership to Palestinians, and enhancing some rights and privileges in the UN institutions. So that is a very telling statement. And after that, there are resolutions like UN Resolution 273, which meant that Israel's own legitimacy and own membership of United Nations was contingent upon fulfilling certain conditions. And those conditions were that the rights of settlement to Palestinians would be conceded, and all illegal settlement would be taken back, and then Israel will respect the boundaries as defined in the UN Resolution 181 and 194. So the illegality, violation of international law, and the violation of international humanitarian law, along with the genocide allegations, those are all now haunting Israel. And there's a lot of pressure, not only on Israel, but its ally, United States. It remains to be seen how long Netanyahu stands against the collective will of the entire world, and also faces the consequences from amongst his own population.
Dr. Janjua, you very aptly pointed out the shrinking diplomatic space that Israel is facing at the moment in the larger community of the nations. But how do you look at the developments that are happening in the arena of international media, which has now started showing the other side of the story as well? And let me remind you of Wall Street Journal that has recently done a poll on its website. 45% of the participants said they're not happy with the way Netanyahu has tried to handle this crisis. And you pick up any other international media, be it CNN, be it BBC, they have all started showing at least the other side of the picture. Do you think something is changing behind the curtains as well?
It indeed is changing on epistemic front. The world is looking at this issue from a humanitarian lens, and the press is also following suit, including on Israeli press is also indicating now that the policies being followed by Netanyahu are pushing Israel down into a quicksand. There was a news story in Haaretz today which mentioned the need for an immediate truce and bringing back those captives alive, whose life is more important than what objectives are being pursued by Netanyahu and his military commanders. So these voices do matter. There is a new tone and tenor in Newsweek and Washington Post, and all the mainstream news channels like CNN and CNBC. They've also started showing a very balanced perspective, a very Palestinian humanitarian, perspective, which was earlier a mess. And when the conflict started, everybody and every channel especially in the United States, was trying to, be a little go one up on each other in support of Israel. But that whole thing has changed, especially in the European press. And there was a statement from French president as well as the Belgian leadership. So they are in the Belgian parliament. There were very strong pro-Palestinian statements in favor of UN General Assembly resolution of according full membership to Palestinians and to stop this war immediately to prevent the human losses.
Dr. Janjua, my last question, how would you see these developments from Egyptian perspective? Because it's Egypt that has the highest stake in this conflict outside the territory of Gaza.
Egypt is a very important country. It is a country which had kept this Gaza region under its sway after 1948 war for 19 long years. And then its proximity to Sinai Desert and the memories of 1967 war, they are quite alive. Israel would be a direct effective of that conflict if this conflict had panned out a little differently and the exodus into Israeli Sinai region would have materialized. Israeli objectives of externalizing this Gaza problem into Egypt would have materialized. So Cairo obviously was the venue of all major truce attempts, because this time around we saw that Qatar and along with the UAE and Egypt, they were front and center. Even Turkey took a backseat initially, and Egypt must be very worried. And I think any end of the war that leads to externalization of that situation outside the Gaza borders towards spilling over into Egyptian border would be very worrisome for Egypt.
Thank you very much, Dr. Raashid Wali Janjua, for being guest in our show. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll take a break and we'll join you back with second segment of the program. Stay with us. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Time to share a good news. And the good news is that with the efforts of Association of University Physicians and Surgeons of Pakistan, they have successfully advocated the Middle Eastern governments of the Gulf region to once again recognize the medical degrees being issued from the universities in Pakistan. This has been a massive development because back in 2017, the delisting of Pakistan's MS, MD and MDS degrees had sent shockwaves in the entire academic circles of the country. And this has caused many problems in the past for Pakistan's. With the backing of Higher Education Commission, this development has taken place with the support of Association of University Physicians and Surgeons. And to join me on this very pertinent development, my guest in the studio is the Secretary General of Association of University Physicians and Surgeons, Dr. Asad Mirza Sahab. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
So tell us about the background of this development when it took place back in 2017 when this delisting process took place.
Yes, actually, before throwing some facts over this issue, Pakistan post-graduate medical fraternity comprises of over 45,000 doctors who have specialized in various clinical domains. The major chunk, almost 25,000 of them, has been awarded diplomas from the College of Physicians and Surgeons, Pakistan. So the college is a very prestigious college. It is one of the very esteemed institutions of Pakistan, and they were striving very hard for international recognition, and they were successful in 2016 and 17. But unfortunately, somehow or the other, there was no representation in the Gulf region. especially in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, from the medical universities. Now, these medical universities are mainly 29 in number, out of which 19 are from the public sector medical universities. So this fraternity comprises of over 14,500 specialists and consultants in the clinical domain in Pakistan, who are registered and allowed to practice in Pakistan by the Pakistan Medical and Dental Council. So there was some confusion at our part. Maybe we were unable to, tell the Commission at Riyadh about the situation that there are two clinical streams here in Pakistan. So this unfortunate event happened. But before that, our MSMD and MDS degrees were, always employed, and they were highly respected in the highest tier in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and across the Gulf region, in all the main states like Qatar, Kuwait, Oman, Bahrain. So this was the leak.
Can you tell us the challenges faced by the medical graduates of Pakistan in the Gulf region, because primarily we are a country that highly depends economically on the people going abroad, sending remittances back. And when we talk in this domain, there are very few professions that actually have acceptance abroad. Most of the people going abroad are either the immigrants or the people going out for the minor work, except for these doctors and engineers going abroad to the Gulf region and to some North American states. So tell us about the problems that they were facing.
Yes, you see, at the time of the delisting happened in Saudi Arabia, particularly in particular. So there were about 3,000 fraternity members from the medical universities of Pakistan. Now just imagine that their average pay would have been around 40 to 50,000 riyal to 0.1 million maybe. Because doctors there, unfortunately, like Pakistan, they are very highly respected and very highly paid.
They're highly paid.
Yes, so these remittances were obviously flowing in the country, and also this was very good for those doctors and their families and the fraternity as well. And this was also linked with the dignity of our profession over there. All of a sudden, due to a certain confusion or misunderstanding, this delisting happened, and those doctors were, their tiers were degraded from tier 2 of the senior registrar category to the tier 3. While the fellowship of the College of Physicians and Surgeons Pakistan, it was included at that particular time, and it was included in the senior registrar category. But obviously the college did a very astounding job, and they advocated their part. But unfortunately, there was no one from the medical universities, to represent the issue. The commission, sent emails to all major medical universities in Pakistan who have been, whose members have been abroad and serving in the Gulf previously. But unfortunately, there was no feedback from the university. So this led to a huge shock within the whole Gulf. And because the Saudi Commission is very pivotal in the GCC, and whatever they are deciding and whatever policy they are opting or devising, mostly all the countries in the GCC, they follow that. So it was a very uphill task for us, first to, convince the Saudi Commission.
And that would have been my next question. Yes. How did AUPSP approach this issue, and how did you strategize to overcome the bottlenecks?
Yes, it was a very uphill task, and we had to, meet the ambassador here in Pakistan from Saudi Arabia. Then their cultural attaché at that time in 2018, he was of very help. And I must mention here the name of Professor Javed Akram. He's a very big and legendary stalwart in our medical fraternity. He is also the director of Royal College of Physicians in the South Asia. And he was always there for us, and he initially he led us and guided us in the issue. But then, we tried to, ask the Pakistan Medical and Dental Council, because all we wanted was just a letter to be sent to the Saudi Commission. But somehow or the other, it's been 7 years now, still that letter is pending, and still we are searching for that letter. And then, we approached the education minister as the then education minister, Mr. Ranathan Saab, who was very helpful for us, because the NHSRC, which is the federal health department, it was naive about the issue, and they were not offering such help which we required at that particular time. So Mr. Ranathan Veer, they asked the Wardi chairman HEC, and Wardi chairman HEC and the DG QA of the Higher Education Commission, they really turned the table around for us.
So how did HEC got into the picture, and what was the help provided by them?
Yes, you see, HEC monitors and regulates every educational aspect in the country. All the professional licentiate and regulatory bodies in Pakistan, like the Engineering Council, the Pakistan Medical and Dental Council, the Pakistan Nursing Council, they are working under the purview of the Higher Education Commission. So the main policy is granted and bestowed upon all these professional bodies by the HEC. So when HEC came to know about this issue, so they were definitely convinced, because they are the policymakers. They knew that the fellowship and all these degrees, they are in the same strata, like in the level 7 of the National Qualification Framework and level 3 of the Pakistan Medical and Dental Council classification. So we requested them to please issue a letter for the Saudi Commission. They deliberated the issue, and the then Executive Director, Madam Shaista, she immediately helped us and write a very comprehensive letter for us. And we then we approached the Saudi Commission, and they were apprised by our the coordinators which are working for us in the Gulf region, and then they invited us in February 2023. So at that time, particular time, the embassy, that was not knowing about the issue, but then when they got to know about the issue, then they were really helpful.
Pakistan's mission in the Kingdom of Saudi
Yes,
Arabia have been mentioned repeatedly in your conversation. So they would have been in the loop since 2017 when this problem took place. Had they been proactively following up all relevant stakeholders in this regard?
No, unfortunately not, because when in 2006 the College of Physicians and Surgeons started their effort, and their rightful effort, because they deserve this to be recognized in the tier 2, so that they can also be upgraded in tier 1 also with the passage of time and they gain experience. But our ambassador at that time, he was not knowing about the issue, and he went with the delegation, and they were advocating about just for the College of Physicians and Surgeons. And there was no one to represent the 29 medical universities of Pakistan. Unfortunately, this is something which we would, we have asked the concerned authorities to look upon it, that how this happened. But then when the embassy came to know about this issue, then I must mention the name of Mr. Fayaz Khan, who was the first Undersecretary of the ambassador, and Ms. Nadeem, who was very helpful in this issue, and they were continuously in touch with the Saudi Commission. It was a very tough job, because to get a policy change in Saudi Arabia, it's very difficult. So it was a very tough job, and they asked us about many things, many documentations. They asked about like each and everything, and to gather that data from 29 different universities, who's each having a different leader with a different mindset, a different vice chancellor, different bureaucratic hierarchy. It was a very difficult. It took us 6 months after the February 2023 meeting to just compile the data which was required by the Saudi Commission. So we presented our facts. We were welcomed over there, and we presented our issue at length, and they were really welcoming, and they told us right there and right then that we will do it, but we would have to provide some documents. So the follow-up was done with multiple online meetings at the Higher Education Commission, led by the DGQA himself. And ultimately, a few days ago, the Saudi Commission apprised us and intimated us, and they have shared their notification as well, that they have given the senior registrar category to our medicine and light categories and our dental postgraduate dentistry. So,
Dr. Tier 1 and Tier 2, you have repeated this so many times. So can I ask you, what is that Tier 1?
It's just simple, in layman language, you just consider that a person, with the advent of modern medical sciences, the people who got qualified from the Royal Colleges in England and Ireland, and people who got qualified from from America, who are termed as American boards, they are considered to be the most highly respected medical postgraduate professionals in the world. So if somebody is accredited, or somebody has taken the exam from America or Royal College, he doesn't need to go through other exams again and again. Just like in the Commonwealth, like India still is in tier 3 now. FCPS and MSMD is into tier 2. So Indians are in tier 3. They are still waiting for that chance to get themselves accredited in a better tier. So like Royal Collegiates and the American boards, they are placed in tier 1, and the Arab boards. But our fellowship and now our, alhamdulillah, our degrees, now they are placed in tier 2, which obviously after an experience of 5 years, they are also upgraded to tier 1.
Dr. You just mentioned India, and that reminds me that over last many years, India has not only developed its tourism industry, but has also developed its medical tourism, which means that people from around the world are coming to India, not only realizing that India is offering better standard of medical services, but also on cheaper rates. Have this thought been popular in Pakistan's medical fraternity as well? Are we on pathway of accomplishing, because we already have people coming to us from Afghanistan and some other countries. I've seen in Balochistan people are coming from Iran as well to get better medical facilities. Are we planning anything like that in Pakistan as well?
You see, this is a very comprehensive question you just asked me. You see, there is no comparison in between India and Pakistan when we are talking about the medical fraternity and healthcare delivery. You see, Pakistan is a very small country with a small population. But when you will ask me about the skills and the skills of our physicians and skills of our surgeons and the facilities we are using, whether or not that is in line with international modern standards, I would definitely tell you that one of our surgeons from these same universities, he was the pioneer in installing the gamma knife machinery in Karachi, and now he's serving in Kuwait, mashallah. So he's head of the department over there. So now he's teaching Indians over there. So this is not the thing, but yes, India is a very big country, and it is responsible to produce the biggest human resource in the medical world. Indians, they are present across the Great Britain, in America, and in Australia also. But we are also over there, obviously. But this ratio and proportion corresponds to the population size both the countries has.
Dr. Having advantage of your presence in the show, I would want you to give a message to the young people who are thinking to join the medical field in the future, because in our country 99% of the girls, when they get to the school, their mothers want them to be doctors, and so there are many boys as well who would, the toppers of the class would always want to go to the medical profession. We don't know about the demand and supply of personnel in this profession. Can you give a bit of advice to the people who want to come to the medical profession?
Yes, definitely. You see, back in the days when the PMDC was abolished and there was Pakistan Medical Commission, at that particular time the PMC it gathered data and it did a proper analysis and survey. At that time PMC apprised every community member that we are still 150,000 consultants short when we are going to talk about the
150,000
consultant, the specialist doctor, not those doctors who have just done MBBS.
The specialists are short.
Yes, the specialists are short, and this was the data you see which was shared by the Pakistan Medical Commission. And so still I would tell everyone that yes, people will be there on the social media who would be discouraging you and not to opt for the medical profession, but I would say that don't listen to them. Still there is no saturation, still a lot of work, but if everyone is going to focus to become a specialist or a consultant and just to focus for big cities, then it will cause problem for themselves only. But the demand and supply gap will still remain. So now you see like what is going on in Punjab government, they have devised a beautiful plan. Now they are offering this postgraduate medical education, along with they are scattering their whole specialist human resource across the province. So now whatever is going on with the name of central induction policy in Punjab, it's a very robust system. It is also implemented in Canada as well with a different name, obviously RMS. But whatever is going on in Punjab now has been duplicated in Balochistan, alhamdulillah, and now also has been duplicated in the federation as well, as known as federal CIP. So I would definitely advise that yes, do come to the medical side, but please do not waste time, because there is no time when you are going to opt for MBBS or furthermore you are going to go for FCPS or MSMD, MDS. There will be no time. Choose your goals, mark your time, and don't waste a single second.
And lastly, Oksab, how about expanding Pakistan's medical degrees recognition to other countries, because there are a list of countries which require medical professionals to come to them. We see this every time on social media that different countries are wanting medical professionals, not only doctors but also nurses, also the equipment operators, to migrate to them. So how about Pakistan's degrees recognition in many other countries that are still not recognizing it?
Yes, very important question. You see, it's very pertinent to mention it that the only GCC is, advertising jobs every third or fourth day. And most of the jobs are, surfacing via the Overseas Employment Corporation. So we know that there is a huge demand and supply gap. Now, Pakistan is, the professionals from Pakistan, they are very highly respected. But you see, this is, if we see whatever the situation in the country is, that we are, searching for, our foreign reserves, we want better foreign reserves. So in that term, if we see our doctors as a human resource of the country, which can be sent abroad, curtailing the point of brain drain also, we have to keep a balance here. So you have to make a product which is acceptable abroad. You see, you just cannot say that we have done this and everyone will expect. You're not American boards, you're not Royal Colleges. These are, you see, 500 years old institutions. We cannot, outweigh them by any means. And they are on the top notch of technology. They are on the cutting edge. You see, like in Canada and America, things are very different. I've been there, I've been in Canada, and I've seen how these things are going on over there. So, but one thing which can be done here is that these 29 medical universities, they must be centralized. At least their clinical domain, which are producing the clinical specialization, they should be, centralized in a common federal inter-university board, so that it can, do the standardization and common curriculums things, and whatever it has to do, it should be doing it in line with the international standards. So once it is, this body would be talking abroad with a different organization like the ACGME, which is controlling everything in the world. So if ACGME, for instance, it recognizes our university, hospitals and universities where, both the MSMD and FCPS is done side by side under the same supervision. See, if ACGME is recognizing that, so our product will be equally recognized. There will be no, problem for us anywhere in the world.
Thank you very much, Dr. Saab, for being guest in our
for
show.
having me.
Ladies and gentlemen, as Dr. Saab very rightly pointed out, that if the government keeps a consistent focus on not only increasing the quality of education, but also to work on the acceptability of Pakistan medical professional degrees abroad, this can turn out to be one of the key assets that Pakistan can capitalize on. We'll join you next week with another program. And until then, Allah Hafiz.